Yeah, so welcome everyone to this Synology webinar on thinking big with Synology's multi-petabyte system, the HD 6500. Do let me know if anything goes awry with the share. I just want to make sure that everyone can see everything. Yeah, my name is James. I'm on the solutions team here at Synology, with kind of a focus on the large systems, as well as specific softwares such as backup and bits and pieces like that. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to answer all of the questions that you have. As mentioned, if you can put the questions into the Q&A section, that'll just make it a bit easier for managing them when we get to the end. And I am going to try and answer all of the questions at the end rather than as we go through. So hopefully we might answer some of your questions before we get to that. So yeah, let's kind of jump straight in. Oh, let me click the right button. There we go. So yes, there is a lot of data in the world, obviously, and actually, yeah. So it's the latest kind of estimates put it last year at 44 zettabytes of storage. Now that is an absolutely insanely huge number, but actually it's not even that much compared to the total estimated data that's actually generated, because there was a stat that I saw that I found that basically said that 90% of all data generated doesn't even get stored. So that is an absolutely insane number that is actually being generated on a daily basis. Now, actually, 60% of all of that data is actually cold or inactive storage. So it's like on that slightly cooler end of the spectrum rather than being hot everyday storage. And this is kind of yeah, where we've kind of targeted some of our bigger systems. Now, well, why have we actually, alongside that, why have we kind of brought out the Synology HD 6500? Well, what previously used to be capable on our SA range. So we used to be able to put nearly a petabyte of raw storage all into 5 units, essentially. So a head unit with 4 expansions. But that would be about 20 U worth of rack space, which of course, when a full rack is £20,000 a year, potentially, that is a lot of money and a lot of kind of density that is going to, yeah, get you back quite a lot of money. So this is what we're representative with the HD 6500. So we can fit all of that storage all into a 4U compact space. So it means that you can have more storage if you needed, or you have more space for compute, and can fit a lot more into a lot smaller area. So it's just kind of a big boost in terms of efficiency. Now, what actually makes the HD 6500? Well, it's a system that will allow you to do up to 5.4 petabytes of raw storage. Now, this is a huge increase over our previous best, which was the SA3600, which could do up to 1.5 petabytes when fully expanded. Of course, alongside that, we've also got to boost some of the compute that is available with that system. So we've got dual 10-core CPUs and up to 0.5 terabyte of memory, all to be able to handle all of that storage. Now, where does it actually kind of fit in? Well, there's kind of a few main uses that we kind of see these systems going into. So number one is actually a central backup server. Being able to have every item in your infrastructure all backing up to the exact same system, all being centralized, means that it's super easy to manage, and also vastly simplifies your backup strategy. Now, of course, alongside that, we've also got massive file servers. So as you mentioned, with your massive photo library, you might not need a HD for that specifically, but some of those larger corporations that are doing media editing and bits and pieces like that, they do want a massive library that they'll be able to just chuck stuff on for their archive. And so that's kind of where this system comes into its own. And then the last kind of thing that we see going into are the surveillance storage solutions. So that's where you can utilize the compute of another Synology system, or even a third-party system, but then targeting the Synology HD unit to utilize all of that storage and yeah, benefit from all of that density. But that's not really where it's limited. So actually, because it's a Synology system, we have the ability to use the entirety of the DSM operating system. So we can do things like, as I say, we can run active backups, we can have a backup server, we can do mail servers with Mail Plus, we've got Synology directory server, we've got Synology Drive that we can all run off of this system. And as mentioned, also there's kind of slightly more niche like utilizations, so surveillance, station, and also actually web servers as well. So being able to bundle everything onto one system is really kind of useful when it comes to boosting that efficiency of that system. So actually, yeah, how does it kind of fit alongside some of the other solutions that are already out on the market? Well, we've kind of done a bit of a comparison here, but as you can see, the power of the system is absolutely insane compared to some of the other solutions. So of course they do have some Intel 12 cores, some Xeon 12 core processors, but that doesn't actually compare to the fact that we've got dual Xeon 10 cores. But each of those have hyperthreading. So we've got loads of virtual threads that we can kind of assign to different tasks. And we've got, lots of kind of headroom for that compute to grow, especially with all of that RAM that we've got the ability to utilize as well. Now, the other kind of benefit of the Synology solution is the actual density of that system. So be it, as I said before, we've got 5.4 petabytes, and we can do that all into, what's the number? I think it's 20U. So we've actually got 270 terabytes essentially per U of rack space, which is an insanely high number when it comes to looking at that density. Now that's kind of a bit more kind of on the software side, and as I say, a few of the specs. But let's actually take a look at the actual system itself. So here is the system. It's got our running in our rack, and if I pull it out, we can then take the lid off and you can see all of the drives available to us. So we've got 60 bays in that system. All of these are hot swappable, so we can just pull them straight out. And alongside that, we've also got 10 gigabit networking from factory, along with dual 1 gigabits. Oh, geez, I didn't realize that was how to sound. Alongside that, we've also got the ability to do dual SSDs purely for the operating system. So we can manage all of that, all of the storage drives, particularly specifically for storage. So it's a really good kind of utilization of the system. Now, again, as I mentioned, I did have a quick mention of the networking options, and again, a first with Synology systems is we've actually got PCIe not 8x slots. We've had them for ages. We've got 16x slots now. So we can actually do a heck of a lot more networking options, where it be dual 56 gig cards, but then we can actually have 4 of those cards. So we can have, in theory, up to 200 gigabit per second if we wanted to. But that's just kind of showing the scale that we can kind of grow to. Now, alongside that, we've actually also introduced another first with this system, and that is the ability to do multi-pathing to the expansion units. So having dual passes between the entire string of systems means that if the connection were to die, then it means we have a second connection that we can utilize instead. So it's boosting that resiliency, boosting that productivity, and making sure that you get the most out of that system. Now, actually, let's kind of take a look at one of the customers that are actually utilizing a Synology HD 6500 in their infrastructure. So I want to introduce you to the Imperial War Museum, and they're quite close to my heart, as this is one of the first projects that I ever dealt with a HD 6500. And they opened in 1917 and have been slowly building up a massive archive database of different bits and pieces. Most specifically, they've actually been doing a multi-decade long project to digitize loads of taped films over the last 100 years or so. And they're doing this to preserve it for future longevity, and also the ability to then kind of distribute it out to filmmakers, documentary makers, much easier than having to scroll through each of these tapes themselves and record it themselves. Now, they use a combination of Synology systems. So they actually utilize the Flagship series for extremely fast ingest and acting as a buffer before they offload it onto their original tape system. But actually, their tape system wasn't really cutting it for them, because when they wanted to retrieve data from that system, it would take potentially 2 or 3 days, where someone would have to email in, say, I want a clip from, I don't know, the 1914, when First World War was just starting. But then they'd have to go through that tape, and they'd have to insert that tape onto a computer to be able to offload that data. Then they'd have to move it into a format that they could then export it out to the end user. And so that kind of workflow wasn't really working for them. So now what they employ is they utilize the Synology HD6500s, and they print straight to tape, and also the HD6500. Now, this means that it can be sat behind a web portal, and they can access, the retrieval time of that footage can be brought down from days to near instant through that web portal. So yeah, let's actually just kind of have a look at how it works. So yeah, here on the website for the Imperial War Museum, you can go into the IWM collections section, and if you scroll down to the film section, they'll kind of take you to the film websites where you can start getting all of these footage. So if we just open up the film website here, we can then see we've got loads of different things we can search for. Here, I'll just kind of select Princess Elizabeth, and then we've got loads of different videos that we can pick up from. So if I just open up this one, we can see that it loads immediately, just like that. And we can start playing straight off that system without having to request this specifically. And it just means that finding the right file, finding the right clip is just that much easier, and it's so much more user-friendly. So that's kind of taking a look at the actual solution, but how can we actually utilize it, and how can we make the best use of it? Well, of course, there are some things that I've already mentioned. So we've got the ability to use the SSD for the system. So it means we don't have to utilize the main drive system, the main drive volume for actually storing the OS. We've then also got the ability to do RAID groups. So you're not having an entire petabyte of storage all on a single RAID 6 volume, which again is not something we would recommend. So this is a really kind of cool feature that we've got. Again, I mentioned those petabyte volumes. So we can do multiple petabyte volumes to get you to that 5.4 petabytes. But then also we've got, again, because it's a Synology system, we've got the ability to do volumes much, much smaller as well if you want a separate hot data volume. We've got over-the-air firmware updates. So we've got the ability to push firmware to the drives, to the OS, and to help keep that system operating at its best. And then again, as I said, it's kind of best designed for those cold and warm data storage, being the fact that it is a much kind of more dense system. So what kind of use cases would you put it into? Well, I've kind of already mentioned a few of them, but again, we're looking at those surveillance video systems, but actually the HD video streaming as well. So we're looking at anything that's got a large sequential read or write is going to be really useful with those large hard drive volumes. Alongside that, of course, we've got the backup server. But actually, one other case that I haven't, kind of briefly touched on was actually virtualization. So because we've got so much compute on the actual system itself, we can do a lot of the virtualization tasks actually on the HD unit as well. But okay, so that's when we would use the HD. Where does it not fit in quite so well, and where would we want to utilize something else from the Synology range? Well, anything that you're looking for that ultimate performance. If you're looking for those absolute maximum IOPS, then the Flash series, Flash Station range of devices is going to be a much better solution. As I said, you're looking for entirely random access, then an SSD-based system is also going to be much better. So, for instance, those email servers and other database servers are going to be really useful on a flash array. But actually, another thing that I've kind of put in here is actually the virtualization. So again, something that you're needing absolutely maximum speed access to that storage, you might be best looking at another solution rather than the HD. But again, if you're looking at maximum virtualization on a Synology unit, then all on one system, then the HD will definitely be able to handle that. Now, I realize that a lot of what we kind of talk about is obviously the very kind of sexy bits. So that's the hard drive, the specs and everything. But actually, a lot of it is the service plans and everything else that kind of goes into supporting the system itself. And so this is kind of what we're able to offer now. We have obviously the standard Synology 5-year warranty on all of our enterprise equipment, and that covers you for head units, drives, all the rest of the Synology kit in that system. But again, if you need to go further than that, if you need absolutely everything is a critical system that needs to be back up as soon as possible, then we've also got those support contracts which can take it to that next level. So again, those support contracts, we've got bronze, we've got silver, and we've got gold, ranging from next business day hardware replacements on the entire system, all the way up to gold. So we've got 4-hour response times or less on site with an engineer, with a replacement, all ready to be able to get that system back up and running as soon as possible. Now, again, of course, we've kind of designed the system to be integrated with the Synology hard drives. And actually, there's a kind of 3 main reasons for that. So actually, since we've launched our own hard drives, we've actually seen a 20% reduction in support cases because of those better reliability and better optimizations with the Synology systems. That means that we've had a reduction in drive failures and drive connection issues. Likewise, we've also had that better optimization. So we've seen an increase of more than 1/3 over similar drives. And again, because we've got the ability to do those over-the-air firmware updates, we've reduced downtime to an absolute minimum, and that is completely 0 downtime when doing those firmware updates, as opposed to, I'm not sure if you've ever had to do it, you do a Seagate or a Toshiba or I can't think of a Western Digital firmware update. Then you've got to unplug the drive, plug it into another computer, update the firmware, then you've got to put it back, and then it's got to rebuild the RAID back onto it. All of that's completely gone with the Synology drives, so it's a really kind of good implementation. Now, of course, I realize you're not just going to be able to know whether this system is going to fit exactly for your case. And that's, again, where our Synology test and buy program really comes into its own. So I have a HD unit on my test fleet, along with basically everything else within the Synology range. So we can take a look at what would actually work best for your specific utilization or your project. And then if you need to, then we can do a test to make sure that it's exactly the right system for your needs. And then, we'll be able to kind of go from there. I would like to say thank you very much for, listening. And please do, if you have any questions, put them into the Q&A section, and I'll be able to go through that.